um, to the purity allows the higher consciousness to sink through. So to be present within all things, and from there uh, it establishes itself in the nature. So nature becomes pure in a way. Nature is pure. Nature actually puts everything in the right place. But man, with his mind, mixed up things and made a big mess out of it. Looking for higher purity, so to say, he messed up the nature and killed many species and polluted and destroyed the order of things. But if he would be putting everything into right place, the purity will be immediately there, because that purity is of the divine being. The divine being is present, behind, and it kind of comes to the front. So we could feel the divine being or existence here present. That means that everything finds its proper place and relations, proper divine in the divine sense. And that is purity. It's a very tough concept in a way.
Very, yeah. Very, because, there's always people, there's exhortations by various, teachers and texts and whatnot to behave in a way which exhibits a certain purity, but lots of people do that and they're not that pure.
Right.
And then the other thing that you keep bringing up, Vladimir, is that, ultimately, even the filthy parts of life and nature have, divine at their basis as well, and they are there because the divine put them there.
Mm-hmm. Well, they are the divine, but they are misplaced, or they are put into the position which is very limited in consciousness. The consciousness is very narrow, and but the thing itself is not narrow. It belongs to the divine event. All the events are divine events, but they are, because of this narrowed down consciousness, are not viewed as the divine. They are viewed as separate. And the separateness creates the displacement in time and space. Now we can take this event and put it into a wrong context. And in that wrong context, it creates a tension or fight between other elements which are not placed properly. And here we are. So purity is actually the final, the highest, what we aim at. We want the divine order of things. We want everything to be placed in proper context, in its own proper context.
Right.
And that is purity, I think, in terms of manifestation. Otherwise, it's otherworldly, because this is becoming so difficult to realize in this world that only there we can have purity, not here, because everything is so mixed and the consciousness is so narrow and dark that speaking about purity here would be to speak about fanaticism of some kind, or some kind of religious dogma, or so there are many people who consider themselves pure, but that is again another misconception of purity. So I would like to read once more. So the divine will, priest, warrior, and leader of our journey. Everything is in one. Divine will, warrior, and priest. Priest, warrior, and leader. It's quite interesting. Yeah? He brings the knowledge, he brings the power, and he leads us in our journey. So the Rishi hymns the divine force that knows all the successive births of the soul on its ascending planes of existence. So it already knows. The divine will already sees where the soul is to travel. It knows the journey which will happen, which not only what did happen, but which will happen in the future. And as a priest of its upward journey, an onward journeying sacrifice means onward journeying transformation, gives him the purity exactly to see how to locate things in the right context, the power to do it, the strength to endure the impurity and the location in the right context, the knowledge which gives him understanding, the increasing riches, the delight through this process. That means he has to get some divine delight, because this is the only thing which we are kind of paid off in this sacrificial journey. We get the delight, yeah, inner delight. This is the only wages we get from this work. There are no other wages. The faculty.
It's worth it.
It is worth it totally, no doubt. But it's quite interesting that that must be there, the riches, the increasing riches, the greater and greater delight, the faculty of new formation and spiritual productiveness. We have new formations and spiritual productiveness. We are more and more productive in spiritual sense. We feel the journey, we feel the increase of capacity to produce more spiritual value within our life.
You said one time that you always knew when you were doing the right thing, because when you were doing the right thing, it gave rise to this incredible happiness and comfort.
Right.
You're doing the wrong thing, or you just knew immediately if you had veered off because you felt something toxic.
Right. Or even not, you can say everything correct, but nothing comes. That means it's not good enough. Even if the words are totally correct, that means they are not really going through your consciousness. They're going through your mind or through your word, or they are remembered, but they are not generating and creating within you this event. So that means it's not your words. You're like a papagay or a tape recorder saying something which is correct. So, unfortunately, there are many such papagays nowadays who speak right things, but that's exactly where they lie. They lie by saying right things because it doesn't touch them, doesn't change them, doesn't bring that delight.
Well, what's the guy's name that Penny, Dayananda? Dayananda says clearly to his followers that they should fake it until they make it. It's better to speak those right things, even though you're not in that consciousness, until you are in that consciousness. Now, I have had that experience myself, and I do think that it's probably better to be authentic if you can.
Right. Well, nobody objects to it. We are all in the same boat, in the same, situation. Um, Nobody of us can be immediately open to the truth, and of course we will have to try out. We have to see where it is going wrong, where it is going right, where it is delight is coming, then it is right. Delight is not coming, it is wrong. So it's always happening. But this discrimination, this kind of distinguishing consciousness we get through this journey, and then we know what position, right position to take, that it will be not just words, it will be a deeper event, or the sacrifice. That has to be a sacrifice. The force about which we speak should be here. We should not speak about the divine in vain. That's what we do very often. We say this word divine, but it doesn't become the divine in us. So that means we abused the word. We abused it. We made it as a concept, a dogma. When I read scientific literature, I see it, this mental approach, which is trying to explain everything. Explanation is not enough. There has to be explanation which leads you to the experience. if you explain everything and then I know nothing at the end, so what was the point explaining? It's a kind of power trip of some kind. Yeah? So I become important in my own eyes and in the eyes of the others. I take my position of professorship. I become self-made, and I meet with these professors all the time, and I see how little they know, how in a deep doubt they are about things, whether they should do that what they do or not. Yeah? Especially in the field of Indology and so on, and studies of this kind. Mm.
But don't you think that the real evidence of living in harmony with the divine is having a great life, is having a good life, and being at the same time that you're aspiring and seeking, that you have great inner contentment and you have grace and gratitude. Don't you think that those are the ultimate arbiters or evidence of spiritual attainment?
Well, everything in small steps also can be, yeah, it leads us out of this ignorance. Maybe if it is not immediately out, yeah, maybe it's the preliminary steps, after which there will be right steps. So in a way, there is a wisdom in everything, what we read in Maya. Yeah? Maya veils everything, but it leads us out of its own um, veiling. So we will be out sooner or later, or sooner rather than later. Uh, there will be an event of some, clash of forces or turmoils created for us, disasters through which we will, awaken to some truth, if we are totally stuck in the ignorance. Of course, we don't like that, but that would be kind of grace for us to hit us out of that corner into which we put ourselves. So he gives us all this productiveness, spiritual productiveness, by which the mortal grows into immortality. So these are all those steps of our growth and journey. It destroys the enemy and the assailants. There are many enemies, and those who assail our fortress, the powers of evil, enriches the soul with all they try to withhold. They try to withhold from us all the riches, gives the triple peace, the triple fulfillment of the mental, vital, and the physical being, and laboring in the light of the supramental truth leads beyond, creating in us the world of immortal felicity. Profound, 2 sentences. It's like a hymn itself. So let us look into this hymn. Tuvam agneva supatim vasunam abhi pramandea dhvareshu rajan tvaya vajam vajayanto jayema abhi siyama pritsutih martianam. You can take the
Pritsutir, what a word.
Yes, and it's very, very beautiful. I'm always quoting this phrase in all my courses. Always say that Abhisyama Pritsutir Martiyanam. This is, I remember already for many years from this hymn, which means, may we withstand the oppressions of mortals. May we withstand the oppression. They press on us, the mortality, the mortal way of being, the mortal considerations, the mortal wisdoms, dogmas, knowledge, whatever they call it, all that mortality they want to support and to honor. may we withstand the oppressions of these wisdoms of the world. Okay, strength, master over the lords of substance. Towards thee I direct my delight in the march of my sacrifices. O King, by thee increasing thy plenitudes, may we conquer our plenty and overcome the embattled assaults of mortal powers. Tuvam Agni, you, O Agni, Vasupatim Vasunam, the one who is the Lord of all the riches, Abhi Pramande, I greet, or towards thee I direct my delight, Advareshu, in all my moving forward, O Rajan, O King.
Is pramande, is that having to do with the mind? Because of
No, it is from Rutmanda to rejoice.
Towards the rejoicing then. Monday is locative, right?
No, Pramande is the I, it is Atmanepadam. It's like Labhe, I
Okay.
make rejoice. I direct my delight, as Rubenda puts it. I direct my delight, or I make you rejoice, O Agni, who is the Lord of all the riches, in my journeyings or in my moving forward, O King. Tvaya Vajam Vajayanta Jayema. With you or with your help, may we, seeking the plenitude, Jayema Vajam, conquer the plenitude, Abhisiyama, and may we be Pritsutich Martianam, against the pressings of the mortals. Pritsu, it's a Pritsuti, yeah, it is hostile attack. And that's battle, contest, strife.
So could you talk about that conquering the plenty? Because that seems like a funny, an unusual way to describe that experience to me. I mean, it sounds like, yeah, because the plenty is usually you have to not conquer, but release, but surrender.
Jayema, root G, yes, to conquer.
Well, could it be, I'm not sure this, it seems to me, I'm looking at that and thinking the things that seem to be too much. So many times when we're discouraged, we think, oh, this is just too much. I can't handle this.
All right. You mean about too much about plenitude or about conquering?
Saying that the plenitude there, I'm almost thinking of it almost as an adjective in the sense that it's not the, we're not talking about the plenitude as in when we sit down to a feast, but just excess or just too muchness, which could be both positive or negative.
Yeah, maybe to the vital it may look like too muchness. It's a nice word. I will use it from now on. Too muchness.
You went with us to an American shopping center, so you understand what I mean.
Right, that is too muchness. Yes, correct. Now I understand now what you mean. We don't have too muchness in Norway. In the US, yes, we had too muchness. I remember these huge centers. Uh, but yes, right. Yeah, I think plenitude means something more than yeah. It's too muchness, but not only on the vital level. It's it's a spiritual plenitude. Yeah, it's like I find this word excellent for these translations. I don't find a better word. Truly speaking, I'm in love with the word plenitude from now on, because it introduces something substantially infinite and delightful and joyful and also quality wise and quantity wise. It hits both. So it's not only quantity-wise a lot, but it is a lot in everything.
So
It's
which word is it?
Vajan.
Vajan. Vajayant.
So Vajayantah, Sri Aurobindo puts it here twice like this. Increasing thy plenitudes, may we conquer our plenty. Increasing thy plenitudes, may we conquer our plenty. Quite interesting. He found his way around. Yeah? So we are increasing the general plenitudes of the divine force growing, and may we get our share of this plenitude, yeah? Which is required for our journey. Yeah? So he will give us our bhagya, our share of the delight. Yeah? We are not trying to get that share before that work is done for all, for his plenitudes. We are here his instruments, first of all. And whatever he gives us as our own, our enjoyment, so to say, of these plenitudes, that we will take from him, not from ourselves. And this is the divine attitude, I guess. Yeah?
So this is a bhagya issue then. How much of that we are capable of acceding to in a given lifetime.
Right. And may we conquer. Conquer for me is not conquer in a sense, but I'm not afraid of this, of these words anymore. Conquer or possess. May we possess. Yeah, you. Sri Aurobindo says to be possessed by the divine. Yeah, he says to possess the divine is a great delight. To possess the divine, but to be possessed by the divine is even greater delight. Yeah. So they're both.
That kind of implies just being established, so that never departs from your awareness. That consciousness of the divine is so established, it's possessed you. It's so established in you.
Correct. You are possessed by it.
Or we don't lose it even in sleep.
Right, right, absolutely. So you kind of become an owner or master or possessor. So in this way, if we go beyond words, yeah, if we understand that words are just tokens, and when we take them from one context and where it is not very good to speak that you can possess the divine, what a nonsense. From religious point of view, of course, it's total nonsense. But from the spiritual, psychological point of view, it can be the truth. Yeah? So, and there are no other words to express it better than this. So why should I be afraid of this word if it expresses the real thing? And I distinguish the difference. Yeah? And also he uses another word, which is also desire. He says that he often speaks about the divine desire. So he changed the word desire, you know, which is totally prohibited in the yogic literature. But in Sri Aurobindo's terminology, the divine desire is that, you know, and he uses these words, simple words, changing their meaning. The same as the Veda does. Veda uses these simple words, implying something much greater and bigger. Same as Jayema, yeah? May we conquer the plenitude. seeking the planeteers may we conquer it. Mm,
But isn't that's kind of a quality and a kind of a characteristic of Agni, isn't it? Himself, he is the divine desire. He
right.
is the divine desire that pulls all beings forward in their path.
Yes, we
But
read.
I see what you mean about that Jayema.
Yeah, passion also. All these normal words, they change their meanings because they are applied to this pure spiritual events full of power and knowledge and joy and purity and vastness. So why can't we apply those the speech we have to those events? And they change their quality totally. And I don't see Jayema anymore, Jayate, Satyameva Jayate, for example. The truth alone prevails or conquers. What does it really mean? What conquers? Conquers darkness. Yeah? We conquer our incapacity of plenitude. We conquer our incapacity of being charged with spirit and receiving the delight, infinite ananda here. So this is the conquest. It's a big conquest, yeah, of some kind. So nothing wrong about it. It doesn't sound wrong to me anymore. And even this, may we withstand the oppression of mortals, is also another very big thing. But in this context, it makes totally different sense. Meaning, to withstand the oppression, you could feel how darkness presses onto you with all its wisdom. Yeah? And darkness has its wisdom and its own arguments, very wise and very, we have to survive, we have to live, we have to reproduce, we have to all the time something, we have to. But not that thing, not that conquest of the planet years, not giving oneself to the upward movement all the time, destroying everything which is established here, or mutating through level by level in the evolutionary ascent. So of course darkness wants to prevail and wants to endure this change. The darkness wants to find itself on this ladder of change, and they will press. And the more we are going upward, the more they will press, because there is also hidden secret desire in that darkness to reveal the light. So they will all come for this transformation. The more you have the power to transform, the more the darkness will be around you. So we must pray to withstand the oppression, because if we are here to grow in light, so the darkness will grow also. It won't be the same darkness which was before, easy, so to say. There will be more and more difficult pressure of darkness.
So then it invokes it to me. I mean, it doesn't say this directly unless you feel it's implied, but it takes an enormous courage, an absolutely enormous courage to be at once moving forward on this this march of sacrifice, and to also withstand the embattled assaults from the dark forces. I mean, the courage that's required is really extraordinary. I mean, it's just extraordinary, it seems to me.
Right, but once we are out of, once we are muktas, so to say, once we are out of this grip of these forces as if they are our part, as if we are identified with them, when we see them as separate, pressing onto us, it's a matter of battle. Sri Aurobindo speaks about these battles in his life. He says about this. About attacks, about these Rakshasas, Asuric forces constantly. He says, I have 1001 open wounds which were created by the Asuric hits and battles with Asuric forces. And these wounds, he says, are difficult to heal. It's not so easy to heal. They are always there, like that reminds me of this.
Tell me about it. When it's your whole spine that's been under attack, boy, you really know you really know that you've been in a battle.
Right. So one can imagine what these oppressions of mortals are. Yeah, that's not a small thing. But he is already on the other shore. He is on the shore of light. He cannot consider them to be part of his psychology. Yeah, for him, it is easy to battle with them. Not easy to battle, but easy to recognize them and to see them as different from him. For us who are mixed up with these forces and are not sure what is right and what is wrong yet, totally, yes, when the events take place, of course we are sure deeply, but still we are fighting with ourselves yet, not with outer forces. For rishis, these are already outer forces.
But that's what, I mean, the gift of the Veda really is to give us these like little path lights along the way, because they're describing their experience of doing battle. They're describing these things very, profusely and clearly, and all these, just every one of these hymns is describing it in different ways, from a different point of view. And we have, thank God, we have the Veda, that describes this whole thing so clearly. It gives us courage. It gives us support. Even from thousands of years ago, we have the support of these great beings who are absolutely clearing the way for us, or describing it at least, so that we know that, hey, we're not losing it here. We have, even though this is a difficult journey in some ways, we have the clear description of it from these great souls who've, or they have the vision of the whole process.
Right, and they are in the process, and being in the process, they give us the sense of actual happening. So to say, by reading it, we are becoming part of this actual event, and to a certain extent, of course. Sorry, sound disappeared, yes. It happens once in a while. I do not know why up to now. But...
Yeah, better now.
Right. Great. We can take next verse and see what it adds to this. Havyavad Agni Ajarach Pitanach Vibhur Vibhava Sudrishiko Asme Sugarhapatyach Samisho Didihi Asmadriyak Sam Mimihi Shravansi. And let me put it all onto one page.
Havya Hal.
Havyavad. Havyavad is it's from Bach, and bringing the offering. Yeah? Agni, strength.
Like Hava Mehe, same kind of.
No, Havyavach is the word which means Vach is carrying. Havya is the offering which has to be offered. It is the name of Agni. So the strength unaging, Agni Ajarach, that bears the oblation, Havyavad, is the father of us, Pitanach. He is our father, after all. He in us pervades. Asme Vibhuch. in being, and is extended in light, vibhava, and is perfect in vision, sudrishikah. Kindle all together thy strength of impulsion, sam didihi ishach, impulsion, sugarhapatyach, it is the name of the fire, that belongs perfectly to the master in our dwelling, sugarhapatya. It is this fire in the east, into which the oblation is made with Rigvedic hymns, which supports our embodiment here as the soul. Form altogether thy inspirations of knowledge and turn them towards us. Some Shravansi, totally, some Mimihi, so to say, form them totally altogether. Asmadriyak, and turning them towards us, totally form these inspirational knowledge or inspirations of knowledge.
So turning them towards us could mean just going within. It means going in, internal.
Yeah. So make your inspirations or your streams of inspirational knowledge turned towards us. Make them effective within our consciousness. Yeah? And don't disperse them all over in the infinite nature. Make us the vessel of that love and inspiration and power.
Well, we can find those things by going inside. We find those inspiration and we can identify it by just going inside of our own self.
Yes. Yes, of course. But he is there, the Father, who is to agree. Without his agreement, without his grace, so to say, and nothing can be done. So if whatever we do, maybe we are right, maybe we are totally good instruments, but he doesn't need us for this work for some reason. He does it through other means. Then maybe it will be delayed, or it will be given later, or will be not given, because it is his work, what we are here to do. We are his instruments, and we have to agree to be his instruments. This is the most difficult part, to acknowledge him as our master, the Lord. As Sri Aurobindo says, the bow or the arrow never complains to the master that he didn't shoot it or shoot it somewhere else, where he didn't want, the arrow didn't want to fly. There is no way to complain back. So the master is there, he does his work. So we are his instruments. We have only to do his work, and that's it. And he will grant us, we can ask him. As Mother says, you have to always ask. It's normal.
So that's where our free will is just showing up to ask.
Exactly. This is the only thing we have, the only strength.
The only free will that we have is the will, the real, I mean, anything else that appears to be free will then is just ego sense and some kind of little bitty thing like that. But so our only free will really is to show up and perform the sacrifice and then allow the master to operate through us.
Yes, it is the divine way. The divine way is exactly this, asking, because we know the master there, and we know that what we want is never given mechanically. It cannot be achieved by merit or by some kind of tapasya. You can never achieve that. That has to be given by grace only.
No Santa Claus.
unfortunately. Oh, well, he is the Santa Claus. We have to ask him, yes. But in Asuric way is very different. You see, they don't ask. They get what they want. So to say, they never ask. They will be demanding.
They rape. They rape.
Rape and demand and blackmail and fight for it and die for it and suffer for it, and still they go for it. So they never ask the divine. And they don't need that thing which we need. We can get Asuric achievements here without asking the divine, yes. But what we need cannot be given without the divine's sanction, so to say. Anyhow, even that what they do cannot be given without the divine sanction.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
You know, we are very specific about these things, yes. But still, what you today pointed out is very valuable. Our free will is only within one thing, to ask His grace, for His grace and His attention and His... That's why Mother says, tell me everything you do. There is no small or big thing. You know, it doesn't matter. Matters that when you do this, when you say this to the divine, when you offer it to the divine, you make it the divine. It doesn't matter that there is no answer, that there is no result, matters that you do this. You do the offering. You make the connection. The divine will choose for you the path anyhow, yeah, whether you do it or not. But for you, it is important to have that connection constantly, to have that always in your presence, the presence of the divine. So that's why we have to always speak about it and ask, because of that we need the connection.
Sometimes it seems like this asking is childish and selfish, but it's more like almost just showing up is enough. Just showing up. And
Mother says asking has to be done. There is a certain way of doing it. Yeah? If you ask, you have to be very precise what you ask. There should be no asking in general, I want everything.
World peace. I want world peace.
Yeah, world peace, and plus to this money and prosperity and my children and this and that and everything, the whole list of things. Never like this. It will never work.
Well, I will say an example that has come up in my family this morning. My husband and I have been working on a project to help our son, and it's as if the paths have opened on a very difficult situation, but there's still the problem of, will there be a mobile home park that will allow a young adult to reside there? Is there a right place for him to live, to actually have his trailer? Well, that's very specific. And my contention is that at this point, we must stop losing sleep over it. We must turn it over to the divine, and if it is to be, it will be.
Right. And this is the best way to do, is to ask, the divine for this. And if you have something precise, Mother says, you formulate very clearly what you want, what you are asking for. Then you come and you ask for it, for that precise thing. It has to be very precise. It has to be cognized by the divine. I was telling you once long ago, most probably, usually I speak quite a lot, that I never did this asking of the divine. I always was hesitating to trouble the divine with my personal stuff.
I feel the same way. So then, but I mean, aren't you in the world of vision boards and all of that when you're asking for something specific? Like, I mean, I think where Lynn ended up with this is, I mean, you go through all of the machinations of thinking about what you want, and then ultimately you desire it, and then you release it into the the power of the divine to either grant it or not.
Right. But it seems that it is also possible, yeah, to ask things, because we are looking at ourselves as very important in this sense, you know, that we cannot ask the divine trouble it for nothing. The divine wants to be troubled. It really wants us to trouble it all the time, and we are all the time avoiding it.
But I mean, how can, the thing is, what I've been taught is first deserve and then desire. And in order, I mean, it's like, what can you give the divine? What can you give the divine in exchange for, you know, I mean, in the Vedic, it seems to me anyway, in the Vedic kind of model, you offer things into the fire and you give first, and then you ask for what you want. You're offering first, and then you are asking. And it seems like there's some kind of commerce that is implied in this whole situation of asking for something.
Yeah, with the gods, yes, with the faculties of the divine, it is always like a commerce, like, you know, I offer this for this, you know, something exchange. With the divine, with the supreme, yeah, it's never commerce. Divine doesn't need anything from you; it has everything already. You cannot give anything to the divine which the divine doesn't have. Yeah? So it cannot be. It's only for your sake you are doing it. You are doing it to connect to that. Yeah, you are extending your connection, basically, to be welcome, or to be charged with its presence once in a while. That's what I think. But
if the divine doesn't need anything from you, and I mean, I think you're talking, when you talk about the supreme like that, the supreme doesn't behave either. I mean, the supreme doesn't give or take or anything. It's just supports the eternal value of life itself, but it's not doing anything.
there is a prayer in the Mother. She says that if you feel that you are not really doing, as you say, I have nothing to offer which would be valuable. But the true, well, she says many things, but the true offering is you offer that impossibility of, you know, not being able to offer, and not being able to give something valuable. So you ask the divine to teach you, to lead you to this capacity. And this is another way of overcoming the obstacle. You ask him to be always your leader on the path, to open up these possibilities for you, which were closed and you cannot. So there is always something to ask in that direction, especially when we are stepping on this spiritual path of transformation. But even personal things, this is what I wanted to underline. Personal needs can be asked from the divine. There's nothing wrong about it. It has to be very clear, very clearly formulated and offered. Whether you will receive it or not, it's another matter. But you ask. Still ask. You make connection. You make your extensions. Yeah, it's okay. You don't blame the divine that you didn't receive, or it was not granted or something. Afterwards, there should be no reaction. But offering, this is the offering. Yeah? You offer your request also. You offer your impossibilities. You offer your darkness. You offer your weakness. You offer your light, happiness. You offer everything, one by one. You always make these extensions towards it. And how it responds, it knows how to respond anyhow. So it will do it whether you make these extensions or not. It will do it. But it's for your sake that you do it. Yeah? You become aware of its presence, of its meaningful guidance. Yeah? Otherwise, it will guide you without you being aware of it. Yeah?
Well, that's the difference between inconscient and conscious. You know, is the awareness of the awareness of your relationship to the totality.
Right. Okay, we can stop on this part here, second verse, and we'll take third verse of this hymn number 4. Abhisyama pritsutir martiyanam. May we withstand the oppression of mortals. Right.
That's particularly relevant for a Russian, I would think.
Right, for everyone. For Americans also, I guess.
Americans also. But the Russians have been disemboweled so many times that they...
Since I will miss the next session, would you mind scrolling to the next couple verses, and I'll take a screenshot.
Right.
Well, I don't think we're going to meet next week, are we? Or are we?
All right. Yeah, we can.
Day after Christmas.
As you like. I do not know if of course Lynn is not coming, then maybe we can skip next time since only 3 of us.
Yeah, let's skip next time if that's okay.
Let's do it.
Can you come to the one after that? That would be the one after
Second.
that would be no, isn't it
January 2nd?
On the 2nd.
Oh.
Yeah, I think I will be back then, but you won't know until you see me. I can't tell you exactly when I'm back and so forth.
All right.